Welcome to the Coastline Fire Protection District Board of Directors regular board meeting, April 26, 2023. Roll call, please. Jean.
Yes, good afternoon, President Burke. Board Member Cockrell,
Yes.
Board Member Hannah,
Here.
Board Member McKimmey,
Here.
Board Member Cheryl.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'll now open the meeting for public comments, and any member of the public who would like to make a comment or statement, now's the time. If you'd like to go to the podium, please. Okay, sure.
I received a notice regarding notice to destroy weeds. I'm the owner. My name is Antonio Lopez. I'm raised here and went to school in Half Moon Bay. And I bought this lot over off of Grandview Avenue. And I keep getting different notices all the time regarding removing weeds. I've been doing it since I bought it, but I know most of the lots there, it's a big area. They never do, right? Or maybe you guys end up doing it at the end. But I own the first lot to the left. After the existing buildings there. So it's past the fence lot that's there. My concern with this is that now it says that there'll be a lien put upon my lot and my land until paid. If it's not done, I always do it, but the grass sometimes grows quickly there, right? So my question number one is, how often do I have to do it? Because I usually do it once or twice a year. Number two, it states that you have to weed and remove in front of the lot. I don't know what in front means because there's really no road there, right? There was planned to be a road. Now I think open space. Something happened there that now there's no future planned development there. My concern number one is I want to get from you guys exactly what I need to do. And then number two, I'm kind of against a lien being put in on my lot, in case somebody has to cut it, or if you guys go do the whole thing and don't realize that I had already cut it, weeks back or a month back. And also it states there's like noxious or dangerous weeds. And I drove by there, it's all grass, so I really don't know. So I want a clarification, number one, and number two, I really don't want that to go in effect to put a lien on my lot. I mean, that place is kind of worthless now. The city doesn't really want me to build. I paid quite a bit of money. I got a loan on it, so if you guys go there and cut the weeds and put X amount of dollars on me, even though I try to keep it all the time done, it's gonna be ridiculous for me to try to go and try to get that off,
Understand. Chief, can you answer?
Yeah, so Pat Griffin is our fire marshal who's responsible for the program. I'm sure he's happy to chat with you and walk you through the process.
Okay.
And just to clarify the lien, that is if there is non-compliance. So if the weeds, if you do not cut the weeds, then the district would take action and put that on a lien. If action is taken between now and that point, there will be no.
Okay, yeah, there's been a bunch of notices coming out since I bought it and they're all different and now it's like getting like a little more stricter and I don't have a lawyer to go to talk to figure all this out. So I'm just trying to make myself president and understand exactly what's happening.
So part of our weed abatement program is an annual program. So any undeveloped lot, outside of the city limits of Half Moon Bay, we notice the property owners for.
Okay.
Specific to your questions of what needs to get mowed, what doesn't, and timelines. If I'll give you my card, if you email us, I'll get you in touch with our Marie captain, our deputy fire marshal who handles the majority of this on the coast. And you can do a site visit or talk to you on the phone and go through it all.
Okay.
But we're not in the business of wanting to put a lien on the property. It's a part of our program that is in place with the district.
Okay. You know how far I need to go into the road? I mean, it's kind of like
Without looking at your property, it would be hard for me to make that statement right now, but we're more than willing to do a site visit and go out there and walk it. Yes.
Yeah, probably before I mow it this time. I think the deadline next month.
It's always to juggle when to mow versus how much is it gonna grow back before the grass actually dries out, right? So it's
Yeah.
So, but we're more willing to, if you reach out to us, we'll definitely do what we can to help.
I usually don't do email, I'm kind of.
I can give you a phone number too.
Basic and old school.
Okay.
I've got a question.
Yeah,
Did you call the office here prior to addressing the board and ask them what to do?
No, I just got the notice and it says to come and, we strongly encourage property owners to remove weeds themselves or obtain qualified inspector and, and invite us to come here and figure it out, right? So it's the first time I ever attend.
Good, thank you very much. That's good. Make sure you make the telephone call, it'll be taken care of.
Okay, I thought it was kind of to go through with the liens and all that. And to make sure. Try to protest it.
Get your attention.
Yeah, oh, yeah. It did, the last, the last few, it wasn't that, they didn't have too much stuff to worry about, but, this one kind of like, whoa, I better go talk to them, But thank you guys so much. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
President Burke, you have one more.
I'm sorry, we have another. Sid, would you like to make a comment?
Oh, yes, I do, because I was looking on the agenda to see, usually you put a list of parcel numbers down for the weed abatement, and I just had my property mowed yesterday. I had it mowed a month ago, but it just rained and those damn weeds got so tall. My goat couldn't even keep up with it. So I had to pay a guy to mow it again, but I always check when you publish the list of APN numbers so that I'm sure I'm not on it, since I have 2 vacant parcels plus my house. So was it on your agenda? I didn't see it. It just saw the item, but not a tab with a list of APN numbers. And what's the cutoff date for, when you go to weed abatement versus, if they happen to pass by the day before you have it mowed, is there a cutoff date? I'd like to know. I always thought it was May 1st.
Dr. Chief,
1 second here.
Okay.
Yeah,
References.
And Sid, for your APN list, I believe it is in a previous meeting when we actually declared the nuisance.
Okay, well, I did have it mowed about a month ago, so I'm not going to worry about it. But what is the cutoff date to, like, if it goes too long and you didn't get the guy out to mow, and I don't do it myself, so I'm at the mercy of their schedule. When does it has to be put to the county for property taxes by July 1st, I think, but you guys usually pass that list around and do it, but you send a mowing guy out to do it, and then you put it on the property tax bill, right?
Yeah, so June, our cutoff is May 13th for the letters sent out.
Okay.
After that.
All right.
Obviously, and then any follow-up that's needed is then done, but that list is normally generated after the cutoff of May 13th as.
Okay.
identified.
I tried to get it done before May 1st, and I didn't get a notice like that other poor gentleman, but I feel sorry for him if he's surrounded by other property owners that don't have fencing and everything. So I would definitely recommend to him to keep an eye on the list when it comes out, see if his parcel number's on it next year, so he doesn't get the notice. Anyway, maybe when he does the site visit with you guys, you'll know which one is his. Thanks again. You guys are all doing a good job. I appreciate what you do. Bye.
moving on to consent calendar, and note that Director McKinney is asked to be recused from voting on the consent calendar. Do I have a motion on the consent calendar?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call, please, Gene.
Board Member Cockrell,
Yes.
Board Member Hannah,
Yes.
Board Member Cheryl. Yes. President Burke,
Yes.
motion passes 4-0 with Director McKinney recused.
Thank you. Moving on to continuing business, and I believe we've covered the weed abatement, Chief Cox. Is there anything else?
We may just make one more call for public hearing on that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Is there any other member of the public who would like to speak on this subject? Hearing none. Chief, and then there's nothing else that you need to add, or Patrick?
No.
No, okay, moving on. Moving on to item B, under continuing business, review, discuss, take action to update items under the pending initiative for the Coastside Fire District Plan, and it has my name after it. So let me touch upon this subject. In your packet is the copy of the current strategic plan, and I'd just like to go through just a couple of items. First of all, as we go through, and then I'm gonna make some suggestions as to what should happen in the action items that are on the strategic plan, not the entire strategic plan. I just could, as I was going through this and thinking about, I looked at, on the back of the current document, you'll notice there's a list of at least since 2016, we started adding and putting on the completed initiatives that we did and the board either finished them, took care of and so forth. And you'll note that some of them were and now pretty obvious decisions at that time, but at that time was somewhat controversial. The no employee strategy, review and continue Cal Fire contract for 7 years and on and on and on. So they were action items that really were designed to get our attention as board members and really ensure that we were communicating adequately with staff what we thought was important to accomplish during that. And as I go through this, by the way, I'd like to have the following things that are on the pending initiatives. I'll speak, and when I get done with those, I'd like to have them also added to the completed initiative list. And if you look down to the pending initiative, approve and implement a board approved vegetation management plan, we've done it, right? We have one now that is up to date, and I'd like to have that taken care of. That isn't to say that we're not going to have other added ones to vegetation management, because I'm sure that's going to be with us, I suspect, for a while. I dropped the drone use policy, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, but I understand we already have a policy that is really a copy of the county policy.
Right.
So we have a drone policy in place to take care of that. The complete location decisions for new fire station 44, obviously, after 2 years of work, we have a site, and we're in the process of making that a reality. So that has been completed. And we've increased reserves to 10 million for the new station, station 44, that actually currently is at 11 million, if I recall correctly. So over a period of time, we've addressed those, and at this point, I'd like to just as a administrative item, put them on the completed initiatives. And now that I'd like to address just some suggestions on what I would think would be to add to the initiatives, action items on initiatives. And the first one, and by the way, the three of them are not going to be a long list. I think with one exception, they might be pretty obvious, but I'd like to have on here, we're well underway with work and action on the new station 44. And to have some kind of a stake in the ground, I'd like to have a pending initiative says that we break ground on that new building on the third quarter of 2024. And if I read the material that has been sent to us so far, that seems to be in the area that would work. And just so that we all have an idea, and somebody says to me, you know, where are we? When are we going to see a building? I can at least say, you know, that's what we're shooting for to do that. The second item again is somewhat one that we had previously, but I think it's really helpful to our district, and it enhances our visibility and our accomplishment, and that is that we complete a new district of distinction record and have that completed by the end of 2023, fourth quarter of this year. Those are two. Now, let me give you the third, which is it gets just a little bit more complicated, the third and last. I'd like to suggest that we initiate, and I know the wording of this may have to be changed, but initiate just a computer study and analysis of the Coast Fire Fire Protection District's CalPERS miscellaneous retirement plan. And let me explain. We receive each year from CalPERS an analysis of where we stand on both the safety plan and the miscellaneous, which is the farmer administrative people, that they break it into two pieces. And by the way, this has nothing to do with Cal Fire. This is from our old union that we had previously. We received two packets of this. We had a year ago, we had Martel Associates do somewhat of an analysis on the report we get each June. And someplace in your files, I'm sure you read it every night. You can look up what Patel did, but they really just took the numbers and turned them around and gave them back to us. Frankly, didn't really provide any analysis to view it. What I would like to have do is to, when we get the new statement in July between from CalPERS, I'd like to suggest that we initiate, and I say initiate because I'm not sure exactly whether we have to hire another consultant, whether it would be yourself, the chief would look into this, whether it would be Gene or all of the three or some other organization to do it. And I would like to see us, let me back up one moment. The last study we had on the miscellaneous people that were in the study, they were actually 4 individuals. And what I'm suggesting does not cut off their healthcare law, it's just a different way of paying for it, that's all. And we have 4 people, and the cost, it was estimated to pay that off, if you will, was $750,000. So that's what I'm addressing, just the miscellaneous. On the safety plan, there's some 48 people that are involved with different time that have on that type of thing. I think it would be from a board perspective to look at just the miscellaneous, to analyze and really get a handle on, first of all, what it takes to eliminate and pay off the miscellaneous. There are at least 2 votes that the board has to take, I know that. And the rules that CalPERS has changed from time to time as to what it takes. I'd like to find out what the rules are, if you will, and what the payoff would be for just the miscellaneous. Not that if we have all that and get it back to us, I mean, there's a number of opportunities we could do. We could look at it, decide, we would like to take action on it at some point in time, or do nothing, but at least we'd understand what the options are for possibly in another year addressing the big problem, and that is safety. But addressing, I believe, the miscellaneous will give us some knowledge and background on what's involved, how it's computed, and that type of thing. So I'm suggesting that the 3rd item would be to complete a study and analysis on the miscellaneous retirees that are in the CalPERS initiative and have that report brought back to the board. No action, just decision. That is the 3rd item. Questions or comments?
Sure, President Burke, thank you. First of all, it's fantastic, obviously, that the board and the district has completed all these items sitting back on this list, 2016. If I may make a suggestion, you mentioned 3 items that are being new items to this list. The suggestion I'd like to make is that the board looks at the strategic plan moving forward into the future, as your items are in 2023 and 2024, et cetera. That maybe the board would benefit from a strategic plan study session that can get us together and discuss what those items can be moving forward into the next 2 to 3 years, up to 5 years most, and reformat what our strategic plan is. Because again, this is a list of accomplishments that are fantastic, but I think moving forward, we should have a list of future goals on the plan, in addition to the 3 you mentioned today.
Patrick, first of all, I'm open to whatever. The difficulty I had is I first had this on the agenda, I think it was in September or October. And I know there was some concern and comments regarding various items that we wanted to do. One was the budget and various things. And we spent I think 3 meetings, some 3 hours going over various items. And very frustrating, at least to me, is that nothing came out of it. I mean, we really didn't have an action item to do it. There was some thoughts and thrown around and so forth. And from speaking personally, I just, and I said this before, I just like to have things that are identifiable or objective that we can measure to do it. Subjective things, go on forever. But if there are specific items that you would like to add to this list, I certainly have no objection. You have, everybody else has items that, well, they'd like to add.
And correct me if I'm wrong, President Burke, in regards to a study session that the board can hold. That is an environment that's not a board meeting per se, therefore it's an environment where. Us as a board can communicate ideas and work out what those items may be, right? Because I've got
Let me back up a moment. Now that I think about it, you were not here for at least two of those meetings that before the regular meeting, we scheduled an hour just to discuss the strategic plan on 3 occasions. I think you might not have been here for either any of them. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. The answer to your question is, we can do it. Excuse me.
We created a table of action items.
Yes.
That we submitted that was on the agenda in February. And we have been marching through that table every month. And in fact, the meeting before this meeting, we took care of the April action item, which was exploring what it takes to attract and retain. Exactly, she got it right there. Attract and retain the most robust workforce, that's it. As
Yeah.
well. So that is what we are doing every month as we collect.
Who would we? I mean, I didn't, I'm not. And I understand the factors involved in attracting and retaining the strongest roster. Has that been done?
That was the meeting that happened right before this one.
Okay.
President Burke, to clarify, I think, if I may, I think it's the meaning, it's an educational experience where a board member or two, myself, Cynthia, or individually have conversations with either chief sitting here to learn about these topics.
Yeah.
What I'm only suggesting when it comes to a study session is to get us together to literally study what it is we want to look at on a strategic plan moving forward to 2025. And what happens in that range. And then if we get together to do that, we can discuss what's important to each of us as individuals. And then put together something that's the new strategic plan. Because this one here dates back to 2021 and has wonderful accomplishments. I think moving forward, we should have one that is based on now and in the future.
Yeah. And those 3 that I mentioned would be, but let me just, because maybe I'm missing a point here, but for example, in the example that you described here, to understand the factors involved attracting and retaining a strong roster of high performing personnel, we don't control that. How are we going to affect that? What objective things would we do to make this point? And I don't understand. What am I missing?
You had asked us for a list of action items in the context, for example, of the vegetation action plan. So a table of specific actions. And this is the table of specific actions. And we are learning about that process. And for example, as an outcome of today's meeting, yes, there are things that are required by the state and by the CAL FIRE contract, but there are also things that are evolving and changing and opportunities that we may have going forward to shape the attracting and retaining aspect of what we do through the Coastside Fire Protection District to create the strongest, most robust roster of personnel that we possibly can to serve our district. That's what we discussed today. And each of these things, as we go by, there are things that are evolving. It's not just absolutely set in concrete and nothing changes. Things are happening and there are new programs coming up. And for us as new directors, we are learning what the edges of those parameters are. Because our hope is at the end of taking these steps, as described on this action plan, this monthly action plan, we can come forward with a suggested revised strategic plan. That's
Okay,
the purpose.
again, I hear you. All right, I hear you. I'm not sure I understand or grasp the point you're making, because if we can impact it, and you seem to think there's some way we can impact it, and I'll take your word for it. Maybe there is something that I'm completely missing. But to get back to the point, what I would suggest is that on a separate thing, if you would like to have another meeting, and the board would like to have another meeting on the whole strategic plan, if that's what I understand you're saying.
Yeah, separate from specifically the
Okay,
list or agenda of learning.
I
I just think
that-
it'd be beneficial.
okay, separately, I'll certainly make sure that we'll work together an agenda item on that. Okay. However, now I'm going to make a motion to adopt the 3 items that I mentioned specifically to add to the action items that are on a strategic plan. Do I have a second?
Second.
More discussion. The third 3 items I mentioned, to remind you, is to break ground on in 24 on the Station 44 District of Distinction this year, and also to expand and analyze and survey the possibility of what we might do with the miscellaneous CalPERS plan to help here. Those are the 3 items.
Well, the district of the station and the CalPERS miscellaneous.
Yes,
Of what's there's 4?
what's that?
There's 4, you said there's 4 of those. 4 miscellaneous.
4 people. in
Oh,
the-
excuse me, it's on it, yes, yeah, I misunderstood, yes. Yeah, that changes, somebody could retire that worked here for 2 weeks and it could be 5. So it changed, it was 2, now it's 4. Not too long ago. Anyway, we have a motion, we have a second, any further comment?
What you're asking for on the third item, which is in regards to CalPERS, was to have a hire and do a study.
Yeah, I'm looking to the chief and Gene, I believe, is to decide whether one of the people who are in the business is Bartel. There may be other consultants that do similar things, but really to give us, what's involved, how do you go about it? And then when we do that, get to CalPERS and say, what is the dollar? What is the amount? Yeah, that's
So the goal would be to pay it off. The goal would be to pay that off.
well, that would be a completely separate vote and it would depend, with the
Right.
money,
If it's
interest
cheaper.
rates and all that type of thing, but I just think we ought to know what the heck's involved.
Right.
That's
I
it.
agree.
Yeah,
I mean, so at least we can understand
yeah,
the economics of either paying it off or continuing, just so we have all the information.
yeah, we conceivably could have the funds in-house to pay it off, conceivably, no guarantee. The other option is bonding, and that's done and could be done also, but those are the kind of questions that I think would be helpful.
Well, there's 2 questions, actually. First question is, can we pay it off? Are we allowed to pay it off by law, by statute? And secondly, do we want to?
Exactly.
Okay.
And also pinning in the past, I'm not sure. Pinning CalPERS down on those kind of questions has been very difficult. They keep changing. The ball keeps changing. Okay, enough. We have a motion, second, any further questions? Roll call, please, Gene.
Board Member Cockrell.
Yes.
Board Member Hannah.
Yes.
Board Member McKinney.
Yes.
Board Member Cheryl. I'm sorry, I
Yes.
did. Oh, thank you, thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. President Burke.
Yes. Thank
Motion
you
passes
all.
5-0.
The action item is also the schedule of a meeting relative to Director Hannah's comments. Okay, moving back to the agenda, new business, item 7, review and discuss regarding potential amendment to ordinance 2023, setting compensation for board members. Attorney Savary.
Yes, good evening. On this matter, we're asking for direction from you. And at the end of the report, there are several questions which I'll be asking your direction on. But by way of background for you and for members of the public, by ordinance 2020-03, you set the current rate of compensation that you receive for attending board meetings. You are allowed to be compensated for 2 meetings per month according to your ordinance, which is currently in place, and you are compensated at the rate of $167.50 per meeting. You are allowed to adjust that, and there are 2 questions whenever you wish to adjust. The first is, what should the new compensation rate be if there's an adjustment, and how many meetings should you be compensated for? Let's talk first about the compensation. The water code, which seems odd since you're a fire department, but the water code is where you look to determine your compensation adjustments, and it allows for you to increase the compensation rate by 5% each year. There has been no increase since 2020. And so in the staff report at the second page, it shows you what you could move to if you chose to adopt a new ordinance increasing your compensation. And you could increase it in a number of ways, all of which are laid out, but only 5% each year. The second is, how many meetings would you like to be compensated for attending? Right now, the board policy is 2 meetings, and in the staff report, it talks about what a meeting is as defined by state law. And that's your board meetings like you're sitting in now. It could be a meeting of a subcommittee, or it could also be a conference that you would attend. You may also, if you choose to do so, adopt a policy which would allow you to have other events termed as meetings, but you would need to do that, making some very specific findings that those additional events are absolutely essential for operating the department. And you don't see that very often. And as we get further into the report and we're looking at what other agencies do, you're going to see that they pretty much limit it to meetings like you have done in the past. So on the 3rd page of the report, we've given you information about what other districts are doing, the rates at which they are compensating their board members, and it ranges anywhere from $100 to $200 a month. And most of them are compensating for 4 meetings per month. Under the state law, if you compensate for up to 4 meetings, you don't need to make any additional findings in order to do that. You just need to, by ordinance, indicate it's 4 meetings. If you want to be compensated for more than 4 meetings each month, i.e. 5 or 6, which is the total number state law allows, you would need to adopt a policy based on substantial evidence and findings that the 5th and the 6th designated meetings per month are essential for the operation of the district. So with all of that information, if we could look at the last page of the report, what we're asking for is direction on 4 specific items. And the first is, do you even want to tackle this? Or are you satisfied with your ordinance, which is currently in place, which puts you at $167.50 for each meeting, 2 a month? The second is, if you do wish to amend your ordinance, what would you like to move the compensation rate to? The absolute top that you could move to is $193.90 per meeting, and that's based on the 5% each year increase since the last action on this item. Second then would be, if you want to increase the compensation, do you want to increase the number of meetings, anywhere from 2 to 4, or would you like to look at 5 or 6, which would mean you need to adopt specific written policy and findings as to why those 5th and 6th meetings are necessary. All of this would be in a new ordinance, which would come to you in a public meeting for a 1st and 2nd reading, and then be effective 60 days thereafter. With all of that, I'll stop and be happy to answer your questions and look forward to your direction. Thank you.
Before we open up, can I just ask one more question, Jean? Is there a total per month limit on what can be paid?
On what you can be paid, yes, there is. If you look in the staff report on the second, I think it's the 2nd page in, I've listed out for you what you are currently compensated for, and that's $167.50. You could do up to 3 adjustments because you've done no adjustments since 2020. So you could determine that you wanted to move the rate to $175.86. You could determine that you wanted to move the rate to $184.67. Or you could determine you want to move it to the top rate, which would be $193.90. All of those amounts are driven by state law.
Jean, let me word it another way. If we went 4 meetings at $193.90, does that put us over any kind of a state law limit on the total? It does not.
No,
So
no, you could go. Yes, you're correct. The outside of the box that you could go to would be $193.90 at 4 meetings per month. With making no additional findings.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Before we have a motion, maybe we can just have a discussion. Patrick, I know you brought this up.
Yeah, thank you, President Byrd, and thank you, Gene. I initially brought this up in regards to the number of both meetings and potentially learning conferences that board members go to often happen, whether it's subcommittee meetings, regular board meetings, and maybe a conference or learning experience. 2 or 3 meetings per month seem to be about what could happen. And when I looked at other areas around here, 4 is their limit. So it might, just to allow that to be possible, if we're gonna have, a compensation for a meeting, we might as well compensate for the additional 3rd meeting if it happens, or 4th in that month. And being that in our region, countywide, 4 seems to be their consistent number. I brought it forth to the board and said, should we consider changing our ordinance to allow the board to compensate for up to 4 meetings? I don't see any reason to go past 4 meetings. As far as the increase based on the annual available 5%. My main concern was the number of meetings to allow people to be compensated for those days. So I would suggest that we do the 4 meetings per month. But further discussion on what amount that is, I mean, obviously it's available.
I got a question to Gene. In your research, were you able to ascertain if there are any boards where there is zero compensation?
There are a number of city councils that do 0 compensation for themselves. I wanted to look at fire districts and fire departments, the independent fire departments, because I thought that was more apples to apples compensation. And you'll see, we found for the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that we looked at, they all compensate between the rate of 100 and 200 per meeting, and limit it to 4 meetings per month.
Thank you. All right.
Cynthia?
Gene, I want to thank you very much for this clear analysis. It certainly put the issues, it set them clearly to light. For me, seeing your research, there's not really a compelling reason to change our rates, but we frequently meet more than twice a month. And if the norm is 4 meetings a month, then I would concur with Director Hannah that raising the number of compensating meetings to 4 meetings a month when they happen would be a way forward without changing the rate per meeting.
Without changing the rate.
Yes, sir.
I believe no place here in my reading normal, I'm only reading maximum from 4 meetings per month.
And that's what I'm saying too,
Okay.
maximum.
Okay.
It's up to.
You would use the word normal, so I said, well, that's interesting. I don't see that.
I'm sorry, perhaps I misapplied the word. What I meant to say was, it seems that the other districts allow 4 compensated meetings per month,
Up to you, got it.
and bringing us to that norm would be
Okay.
acceptable.
Well said, thank you.
But they're also less dollars. They're 100 versus current 167.50.
Yes, sir. Except for Nevada.
Yes, 105. Their center loan is 105. Oh, Nevada was 200. Myself, I could get behind taking it to the max and leaving it at 2 meetings, or I could get behind leaving it at 167 and go to 3 meetings. That's me.
Okay.
I'm doing this for my community.
Yeah, I agree.
I was gonna say, when I came on the board first time back in 2007, I assumed there was no compensation, 0. And much to my surprise, they said, well, yeah, you gotta fill out this thing. At that time, you gotta fill out a thing. And I said, what's that for? What? They're gonna pay you. Well, that was never my intention in running with the board and getting on the board, never to make so much as the time. And so when I hear all this sort of stuff, I think, well, now suddenly we're going to start making this a a paid position. And, you know, that's not something that I ever even considered. And now when I came on the board, I think the compensation was something like $75 a year, it wasn't very much, which to me was still a surprise. Of course, I cashed the checks. And we have had board members in the past that didn't even cash the checks. Didn't even cash the checks. So obviously, there were other board members that viewed this as like a public service and not a full pay operation. So I'm a little, I could support up to maybe a maximum of 3, because there are months where I go to several meetings, not one to 2. But I never viewed it was for the money. It wasn't deciding whether or not I go to a meeting with it or not. I mean, that was pretty far down my. That's kind of my thought in the whole thing.
I think it's clear that there's no right answer to this, other than being within the legal guidelines. And there's a variety of ways you could slice this thing out, but let me add just another thought that that occurs to me that at one point in time is that I think that we are different in a number of ways from the example that I think is clear on the report that Gene prepared for us, which is excellent, as you know. But, you know, I would simply guess that if you went to the Menlo Park Fire District, which I have not, but I'll be willing to bet you that they have meetings that we never even touch. But we used to, we do not anymore. But, you know, they have a labor contract, and that takes a lot of time, I can assure you, because we used to have to go through it. And I mean, there was meetings and meetings to go through that type of thing. We don't do it with CalPAC. We do it once every 7 years to do that type of thing. Hiring employees, you know, we don't even have a personnel committee. I guarantee you they have a personnel committee in some way to go do that, but they had meetings to do that. The training of employees, prior to CalPAC, we would train people that go up to the, whatever their training place was, they'd go to work someplace else. We never even, you know, talked about, we hired them, did all the costs. We never had, we had meetings on it. Litigation, there was not a month that went by that we did have meetings on litigation. So we had all kinds of meetings that I'm sure that are these people have, but because of the nature of our COSI now that we have no employees, we have none of that. You know, in terms of the administrative part of our operations, and I don't mean to minimize it, but you know, we're kind of a different category than I think these other people are. And to say that, you know, we want to match or have more meetings and all that type of thing, and again, I'm not trying to have the suggestion, but to me, you know, the fewer meetings we have, we're doing this for community service. We're not doing this to try to have a buck. But I do think there needs to be compensation, don't misunderstand me. But I think that to incentivize meetings, to me, that's the wrong way to go. For some of the reasons I mentioned here, and I think that if, you know, and I'll just meetings. In my case, if I get to the bottom line, I would support, I think it's reasonable to say that there should be an increase of 5% a year. I think that's reasonable. I mean, that's acceptable. That means we would go to 193.9. Personally, keep it at 2 meetings. I don't want to incentivize. We all will probably go to more than 2 meetings. I certainly will. But I just would think that would be just, anyway, that's my comment.
I don't, thank you. To raise the limit before meetings is not to incentivize there to be more meetings.
I understand.
Connecting those 2 points is not necessarily the point.
But yes, but financially,
The fewer meetings, the better.
yeah, but financially, for example, if we were to go to 199, the 5% increases for the last 2 years, that would put us someplace just around or close to what the Menlo Park and Los Altos did if they had 4 meetings. In total compensation is roughly equal. So all you're really doing is say you divide it up, you pay by 100, or you pay it by the 193 for 2 meetings. But total dollars is almost a lot.
Again, it's not about the money.
Yeah.
It's not about the money. It's about doing a really good job at what we do. And there's no amount of raising something by 5% that's gonna make a difference.
But I think that we do. Even though you've gone to 2 meetings currently, and there's another urgent meeting to go to, you go to,
Yeah, absolutely,
we absolutely do it.
without a doubt.
And it isn't even a question of money or anything like that, we just all just do it. Look, does the board want to have a motion and go through this? I'm not sure, as I said earlier, there's no right answer to this, it's just, however you want to do it, I've expressed my preference, and that is to raise the rate and keep the meetings the same as we have, but it's not magic.
President Burke, I believe you have a member of the public who has a hand raised.
Sid, you have a comment?
Well, I'm just gonna weigh in. I don't care which way you guys vote, but I just was appointed to fill Rick Lohman's spot on the Montero Water and Sanitary District, and obviously I didn't do it for the money either, but as a single senior, I was pleasantly surprised when I found out they had recently voted themselves to be compensated $150 per meeting. And that helps out for certain people. And, maybe you guys are all wealthy, but I'm just saying it does take a little bit of effort to go to the meetings and show up and do the tasks that they assign you and read through the board packages. I don't see that it should be wearing a hair shirt, but on the other hand, you shouldn't be thinking about enriching yourselves. That's just my attitude on it. But there's a lot of, people that might follow in your footsteps later that aren't being, maybe can't afford to contribute as much time, uncompensated time or below the market value, as we say. I think that's why Ms. Savary went out and got some compensation measurements for you guys. So anyway, that's all I had to say. That I think it's important to compensate yourself, but not to make it so you're trying to have more meetings just to enrich yourself.
Thank you, Sid. Bruce?
I want to make a motion to raise it 5% a year from 2020 to 2023 for a total of $193.90 with a maximum of 2 meetings.
Second.
I had a comment that I wanted to make.
No, it's discussion, right?
Yeah,
Before we have a motion or vote.
we won't go.
I just wanted to recap, as I spoke first and then everyone got a moment. I think as Director McKinney said, we're doing this for the community. I don't think there's any doubt in that. Whether it's 2, 3, or 4 meetings, whether it's 167 or 191 or whatever it is not enriching our financial well-beings, I would say. I mean, absolutely, as Sid mentioned, it makes a difference. I myself, who've been on the board since December of this last year, have put in an incredible amount of hours in my own time, as I would assume we all do. On top of multiple meetings, whether it's committee and board, and learning education experiences where then I go and go to a conference, all of which has been, vastly important to my success and future success, I hope, on this board. So when there is a compensation plan in place, it wasn't zero prior to me joining. And then I saw that it makes sense to potentially have up to 4 meetings compensated or education, as was listed by our attorney. It made sense to me to at least allow the individual board member, who may not be one of us in the future, to have that compensated for their time. Because again, I can only speak for myself, but if I put in 30 or 40 hours of research a week on a particular subject for this district and this board, I realize I'm not being compensated. And if you divide that 160 whatever by the hours, it's a pretty small number. So my personal belief on this is I think we should allow the board to be compensated for their time within the rules of what's fair and commensurable, or just not compensate at all. And like Bruce said, we're doing it for the community. I totally agree. But it's already there. It's the thing we've been doing. just wanted the opportunity to open it up to 4 per month or within a reasonable realm without going further into asking for more. Gentleman mentioned, Director McKinney and Dr. Cockrell, that, you know, we're not doing this for the money. I think, like I said, that's a given, whether it's 3 meetings or that 4th meeting. It's just about a little bit of compensation for that time that we're putting in. So those are now my thoughts, because I hear a lot of discussion based on keeping it 2, raising it to 190. That wasn't my goal. I think we should keep it at 160 where it's at and just increase it again, in my opinion, to 4. Otherwise, my opinion would be is just get rid of it altogether. And why have it? If the goal, like Director McKinney says, you know, it's for the community, then let's.
Well, there's, by the way, there's nothing to prevent you as a board member to simply not take the money. You do not have to take the money.
Understood. But I'm saying as a board, who may not, this board is going to continue on without us at some point, and it is changing an ordinance, which isn't impossible, but it's not the easiest thing. It's already taken a fair amount of time today, so I apologize. But that's just kind of where my thoughts have gone in this discussion of hearing individuals kind of bringing up that, you know, we're not doing this, we're doing this for the community, not the money. Well, I think that's a given, whether it's 3 or 4 or 2. I think,
What was that last point?
like I said, I think it's a given that we're not, as board members, doing this for any financial gain.
Yeah.
It's not a salary. We're talking about a few $1,000s to maybe $3,000 per year annual. I think it's a given that we're not doing it for the money. But I'm saying if it's going to be there in the first place, we should at least compensate for the individuals that are putting in extra time, whether it's, again, an extra meeting, 3rd meeting, or a conference. And it's up to 4, which means, and realistically, on average, we're all going to do 2 meetings a month with the occasional 3rd or 4th.
I got a question for Bruce. Yeah, when you were on the Point Montero board, what was the compensation on that?
I don't think there was any. Or we will,
I was just curious.
I don't recall ever
There
getting a
was,
check.
there was one, but
There was?
it was, I don't remember the amount, but it was just a very minor.
A token, yeah, $25 or something.
Yeah.
Okay, I was curious.
But I don't recall.
It is, redundant as heck to say, there's no way to answer this thing. Go around, and we spent a lot of time on it, and my logic, and I'll present my vote, is that if we do, as Director McKinney says, that and have 2 meetings as he suggested, that would bring us, if we, assuming we have the 2 meetings and pay for those things, that would bring us under the 4 meeting, at the total dollars under the 4 meetings that Menlo Park and these other examples might have by a small amount. I mentioned earlier that dollars are a wash in terms of the compensation we get versus the other. So I guess I would support what Bruce has said, and you know, I'm not pounding the table and trying to say the way to go over it, but I think it's sticking with the 5% increase that is allowed to us, and keeping it the same way it is now is the easiest way and most practical way to do it. That's my sense. Any other comments? And I'll fall for the
Using the, you know, Menlo Park metric or any other metric is a basic thing. I don't think it's a marker that we need to keep ourselves. So I think the best metric we got was from the one comment was from an individual that stays involved, you know, and made a very nice comment to say what she said, which is, you know, some people may need, or it may help them affect this job better going forward.
Sure, absolutely. I absolutely think that there should be compensation for the board for the time and effort that you will, but it's still a community support item that we do on that thing. If there's nothing else, I'm going to ask for a roll call, please, Jean.
Board Member Cockrell,
Yes.
Board Member Hannah,
No.
Board Member McKinney,
Yes.
Board Member Cheryl,
No,
President Burke.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-2. I will draft up an ordinance to bring back to you at your next meeting for a first reading, which will show an increase to $193.90 for 2 meetings per month. Thank you for your direction this evening.
Thank you, Gene.
Thank you. Under new business, review and approve resolution 2023 to transfer $400,000 in funds from the general fund into Lake or California Class account.
Thank you. As a part of the approved 2022-2023 budget that was passed last September. It identified 400,000 to go into internal service funds or some sort of reserve funds. We have sufficient funds at this time to make that transfer. It's staff's recommendation that based on the preliminary cost assessment that we have coming back from the architect, that this money be transferred into our internal services fund for the time being. With the anticipation that before the end of the fiscal year, we probably will be coming back with an additional recommendation for moving additional funds into this.
So that last point, just to clarify, we want to have a reserve fund that covers what our anticipated cost to redo Station 44. And have that identified in the reserve fund.
That's it, yeah, and the number we got back at the last meeting with PBK was 13.8 for both hard and soft costs.
And we currently have 11 something.
If we make this transfer, we'll get 11.5, so about 2.5 million difference between the anticipated final cost and what we get.
Thank you, Chief. I complicated this simple issue by adding into the agenda or California class. And let me just explain what the chief described, and we will get either at this meeting or subsequent meeting, we will get the amount of money transferred into a reserve fund for 44. We will get that done and so forth. I just thought that in previous meetings, we've had discussions regarding California class, which is another investment opportunity that we have not had in the past. And their brochure and their items, and I won't go through all of this, but there's something over 1,000 now special districts and cities that have enrolled in California class because of the efficiency of which they're handling money. They have next day reimbursement and payback. They don't have some of those lags that you get with late and some of the other kind of things. Their return on investment is slightly higher than it currently. It will change over time than we would get at the late and or the county. And I just thought that it might be a way, and I was thinking of taking the 400,000 that the chief mentioned and saying that that we'd have amend the amendment to say that we'd have $200,000 go to late and $2,000 to open our account with California class just to get us involved in a membership to do it. It is not a crucial thing. But at some point in time, if we don't do California class now, I absolutely think it's necessary that we should be doing it. We need to diversify as much as we can and maximize our return on investment with the inflation and some of the other things we're going to find. And this just has some advantages that either lake or county provides. If we do not do it now, we could do it out of the new budget arrangement with no time requirement on California class at all. But that was my thought. Hey, before we take any motion or anything like that, what's your thinking?
Just to clarify, Chief, so this is transferring funds to bring our amount 11.1 or 2 million closer to the station. And the 11 point whatever it is million is currently where?
It's in reserves, it's in late internal service.
This 400, if I correct me if I'm wrong, this 400,000 will bring it to 11.5 million.
Correct. What you were discussing, President Burke, is a slightly separate thing about looking at class for the future, correct?
Yeah, I complicated chiefs.
No, it's okay.
Doing it. I just thought because we were going to transfer money that it'd be an opportunity to just take some money and open up class. I think this organization needs to be in class. Financially, it has advantages for us, but whether we do it now or do it in June is neither. If there's no strong feelings and without complicating it anymore, I will stop my promotion of class and wait till June or the new budget to do it. But at that time, I'll come back and with a specific motion on class, and I'll remove that for now.
I just was gonna finish what I was gonna say, which there's another question about, so the total amount was for the station.
13.8 is
13.8. So we're inching towards it. Is there a reason why we're doing a $40,000 transfer today versus a larger or lesser, or is it just?
Yeah, so what we're accomplishing today is actually fulfilling the budget that we adopted in September, which specifically identified that 400,000. Next month, we'll come back to you with the exact number that we can take out of our operating fund and put into reserves and still have enough money to carry us through the dry months of the year. But we don't want to do that without really calculating that, because we don't want to come up short moving operating fund.
And then I would assume as we do start breaking ground. And go through the process of years of getting the station built, there's payment schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to make sure that, I know we need to identify a reserve to have the money provided for, we need to identify that. But there's a couple of other items that, may play out, we don't know what the fund balance is at the end of this current fiscal year. We may have a fund balance that we could augment late with other money, so do something like Cal class and do some other things. So there are some other items that I think the chief is correct, that we need to identify that money for the station 44, which is one of our priorities, as soon as possible. Okay, anything else? Do we have a motion to adopt? We have a motion to transfer $400,000 from the general fund and deposit into Lake.
So moved.
So moved. We have a second.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion?
It would be resolution 2023-09.
Thank you. 203-. Any further discussion? Roll call, please, Jean.
Board Member Cockrell,
Yes.
Director Hannah.
Yes.
Director McKimmy,
Yes.
Director Cheryl,
Yes.
President Burke.
Yes.
Motion adopted 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Item C, new business review, discuss and approve a replacement of one utility vehicle in the amount of $67,000.
Thank you. I'll actually turn your attention to page 2 of attachment 1 after the staff report, which is the COSIDE mobile equipment replacement plan, which identifies utility 41 as on the replacement docket for next year, next fiscal year. We're just going to come to you, or we're coming to you early because the vehicle lead times right now are at least a year away, so we'll be lucky to get it in next fiscal year. The vehicle quote you have in here is contract pricing through the state, so it's not the price that you would pay if you're off the street, but it's actual state rate. And it will be an identical vehicle to utility 40, replacing the old utility 41 though.
Thank you, Chief.
Chief, what would the savings roughly be for the contract state pricing that this number represents?
I roughly figure it's about $20,000.
Any questions? We have a motion. I'll make a motion that we approve the replacement of one utility vehicle in the amount of $67,247.03.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please, James.
Board Member Cockrell,
Yes.
Member Hannah,
Yes.
McKimmy,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
and President Burke.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
I hope that figure includes the paperwork that goes with it. Board of Directors report, the Finance Committee. There was no Finance Committee meeting. I just had a couple of comments that are on a spreadsheet that is in our packet and is a public document. As you probably see, and for the public's education, the total revenue year to date is 76%. So it looks like we're in strong position to meet our revenue projection for the year. Our total expenses, again, is 45%, but that does not include all the CAL FIRE invoices. So that is a little bit misleading to see that. we have total reserves in Lake and San Mateo County of some $15 million in total, not just any one category to do that thing. And the PAS balance for healthcare for previous employees is some $3.7 million. I just think I know it feels the same, that I personally think that we're gonna face a changing financial environment in our next fiscal year. Certainly the home prices, the inflation and all the other things that we read about, I think is gonna have an impact on this budget. I recall vividly what happened in the 2009-10 category when we had a real setback, and it really hit us big time. So that's just an editorial comment. But that's financial report, unless maybe
No,
any other
agree with
questions?
this and just look at the numbers, and I can hit you with a smile, but that could be illusory.
Yeah, okay. Volunteer committee report, no report. First hand.
Gonna add that the two volunteers that are in the paramedic program seem to be doing quite well.
Good.
Obviously, this last month has been a little quieter around here, which is nice when it comes to the need for the volunteers. So that's probably been my welcome break for everyone, honestly. You know, I know the volunteers like to be involved. Both training every Thursday. There was a class that was supposed to happen next month for training on 1A, 1B, which is direct operator of a second engine. Unfortunately, that was in cahoots with Santa Clara, I think, and they had to cancel because they didn't have enough instructors to include people from our county. So hopefully we can figure that out in the future.
Great, thank you. Land and Structures Committee, Director Kimmy, Director Cheryl.
I think I saw them surveying 44 today. So they're sneaking along.
Good.
Progress.
I'm sorry that I missed the meeting, that I believe took place on the 17th. The notes are excellent. Thank you very much. I look forward to being at the next meeting.
Perfect. It was good. It was a good test run for us.
There we go.
Anything else? No. Vegetation Management, Director Clough, Director Hammond.
There was supposed to be a some sort of a Zoom thing, as I recall, on Monday, and unfortunately, I was tied up doing some other stuff. Did you have to make that?
Please reference the Zoom thing.
I just put it on the calendar. The guy where I found out about it, it was from like 2 to 5, something like that.
In regards to
Wildland firefighting, vegetation management, stuff like that.
Is that the town hall safety meeting, Pat?
it's not familiar.
The one we're doing,
Yeah.
that's May 11th. Which I believe is a Wednesday.
You know, the one I was talking about was on Monday. I think I almost found out about it by mistake. You know, put it on the calendar, then something else came up.
Yeah, I'm looking at my calendar, I don't see anything from Monday.
Yeah. I was hoping you're up.
I don't know anything.
I was hoping you could talk about it. Okay.
All right.
I would like to.
I have to look at the calendar. to see. Well, no one else knew about it. Obviously, it can't be that big a deal.
Special District Association, Director Hammond, anything to?
Nothing to add.
ALS, JPA, nothing to add, no comment. Emergency Preparedness Liaison report. I don't know if we have any report on that, Chief, at all?
Sorry, what's I lost track there.
Emergency Preparedness report, the Chief.
Oh, yes, so Chief Cosgrave could not be here tonight. He did send notes though. A couple updates from the Department of Emergency Management. They've hired 2 new coordinators for the agency. The Half Moon Bay Community Preparedness Day is going to be on June 10th. And the San Mateo County Disaster Preparedness Day is going to be on August 5th. They've also been invited to be a part of the Wildland Safety Town Hall event that the Fire Marshal's Office is putting on May 11th. And they are currently the lead agency right now on the North Peak, Montera Mountain, West Access Road improvements that are needing to go on to make access up there.
Chief, the question, did I understand you that preparedness days, there is a date for what's happening there in the city and a different date for the county?
Yes,
That
so,
would be on for the coast side, that'd be very confusing.
yeah, so for the coast side, it's June 10th. And then for the county on the bay side, it's August 5th.
Okay, so there's two dates. What I'm getting at is Half Moon Bay gonna be the same date that Point Montero is?
Yeah, so correct me if I'm
Yes,
wrong.
okay.
So this is just like an event, getting all the agencies together for people to visit.
Yeah.
That is gonna be in Half Moon Bay on June 5th. So they'll have engines and ambulances and Red Cross and CERT and everything. It's not a drill. It's
Yeah.
just a come together on the coast and
It's
learn.
the 10th, June 10th.
June 10th, sorry, June 10th, yes.
Okay.
And then on the bay side, it's August 5th.
Okay,
Right, and then that's the big countywide.
Correct.
okay, thank you. Sir. With you.
Thank you very much, the Coastside Fire Protection District, for hosting our Shake and Bake, the Advanced Cert Training 2 on April 22nd. It was a very well attended class that was on last Saturday morning. And the Shake and Bake was about earthquakes and wildfire preparedness. And again, it's our second class of the 5-class annual series of Advanced Cert Training, and we are expanding our teaching team, our instructional team. Matt Linton, who was with FEMA for 25 years and it was a West Miramar Coastside Cert, was the lead instructor for this, and he did an excellent job. We had in excess of 40 people who came to that training, and he has since sent out follow-up materials so that everyone who was there and those who could not attend for various reasons have the material that we presented.
Perfect.
So we thank you very much for the chance to continue with that advanced cert training.
That is it.
That's it.
Attorney's report, Gene,
Nothing, thank you.
fire marshal's report.
Okay, so for month of March, we conducted 79 plan reviews, 16 inspections. Inspections are a little low because of weather. Most people won't call them in because the jobs are a little bit shut down during that time. Weed abatement letters went out on April 1st with the close date of May 13th, as we spoke about earlier. Other than that, as Chief Cox mentioned, we have a town hall for vegetation management with some guest speakers. We are lining up for May 11th. It'll be a part of the Brews and Views from 6 to 8 p.m. And then from that, it'll be, I believe it's on Facebook Live as well. We're getting a flyer put together, so that'll be disseminated to the public. And then we will follow up with a secondary day via Zoom to hold the second in the report.
Thank you. Fire chief's report.
All right, just a few things. I just want to call your attention to, in the board packet, the Friday report from PBK regarding the status of meetings with the architecture firm. Specifically, the last page might be of interest. We got a letter from the neighbor, George Wilkie. And it's just, wanted to draw to everyone's attention that he's engaged with us and given his kind of position, which is.
It is.
For me, the monthly meeting with the sheriff's office continues. We are conducting 3 joint wildfire evacuation trainings for line officers and supervisors. Joint with the sheriff's office and DEM, and that'll be 3 days in May, 2 in Redwood City, 1 here on the coast. And that's really to bring together all the first responders and make sure that our plan is all in line regarding evacuations for this wildfire season. So thanks to both of them for partnering with us to do that. We were involved in preliminary discussion as a part of the district regarding the future of PSC and the dispatch contract through the ALS-JPA. The only headline out of that is in anticipation that in the future dispatch costs might go up, which is, very unresolved as to what that looks like. But that conversation was started with everybody who's in the ALS-JPA. Deputy Fire Marshal attended the WUI conference in Reno, had a successful trip there. We're working with the Department of Emergency Management to get the western road from the, what is it, McNee Ranch there, up to Point, Montero Mountain, North Peak. That road is impassable right now, and the road from the watershed side is also impassable, and that holds repeaters, local, state, and federal agencies. So there's a plan coming together for about a 2-week project to get that road repaired so that we can get a type 3 or a smaller engine up there. In the meantime, when that takes place, we will be putting it's actually county fire area. We'll be putting an ERV at the ranch so that if there's a medical emergency during the project, we can quickly extricate those workers from the hill. Chief Griffin is working on a fee study. I think we mentioned that. The fee study RFP has gone out. I believe it closes 27th this month, so end of the week. And tomorrow, and anticipate next meeting, we will be coming to you for recommendation to approve a fee study for the district to make sure we're recouping the fees that we actually are kind of spending on getting the work done in the fire prevention office. Volunteer Academy continues to go well. As far as outreach goes, the big thing is the Station 40 open house, which I believe is this Saturday, 10 to 2. If you're in town or interested, come on by. They're going to open up the station for the community. The operations side, no significant calls. One significant issue we do have right now is the Higgins Canyon slide. We have a lot of concerned citizens up there as far as emergency response goes. Chief Hibden has been on the calls with county planning and DEM and the sheriffs. We do have a plan in place if we do get a medical emergency up there to automatically take the ERV, the small response vehicle from here, to actually get around the mudslide to extricate that patient in there. But I think we're all concerned about the emergency response and how long that's looking for a potential fix. Having said that, we're not alone. Essentially, all of our routes from Skyline down to Woodside at the moment are compromised, so a lot of responses are having to be modified based on the closures. Training, company officer series continues, as well as the instructor series. This week, I believe it's a rope rescue course going on over here on the coast. On the facility side, the bids the RFP for the security fencing was released. Chief Silva had 7 contractors show up for the mandatory bid walk. So it'll be interesting to see what those numbers come back with. Again, anticipate the main meeting have a recommendation for that. As far as apparatus is concerned, both new Type 1 engines are in service. I hope everyone got to see it in the newspaper. We got some good publicity about.
Congratulations.
Made the front page news.
Yeah. So crews are enjoying those. Next month, we'll probably bring to you the recommendation to surplus the 2 old Type 1 engines. Now that we're having new ones in place. The ERV, the replacement ERV, I know I say this every month, it's being outfitted. The Chief Minks or Captain Minks has been waiting on the seat. There's a specialized seat that goes in the back for the medic to sit on. I guess it's finally coming to stock, so the fabricator is working on getting that installed. And as far as that is all I have.
The open house again?
This Saturday from 10 to 2.
10 to 2.
What was the promotion of that?
We didn't really know.
Yeah, so I'll check with Cecile. I know it's been on.
I read about it somewhere, but I can't tell you where.
So on that note, I mean, it'd be great to spend the time necessary to reach out to our community and make sure that they have enough time to plan it in their calendar and give them time to show up and enjoy it. What is the open house scheduled to be as far as festivity, or is it just a walk?
It's just an open house. Yeah, come see the equipment, meet the firefighter, see the facility.
Yeah, from what I know, it was on social media as of like today or yesterday, and
It was on what?
social media.
Oh.
And Cecile,
It was on Twitter and
I
next.
believe. but-
Yeah, it's been on there for a couple of weeks.
Has it?
We posted it, I think, yesterday, but we can double check and make sure she sends.
Is there anything we can do moving forward to make sure we get the engagement out there so people know what's happening?
You can promote it any way you want, I guess. Everything I saw for local sign was the one down here, that was on the side of the thing,
Yeah.
which I think would have been more visible had it been up this
Probably
conference.
see.
You know,
Just, so I don't believe it was in the article on Monday's paper.
Unfortunately.
About the engine.
No.
But
I
there
don't
was
know.
nothing
Oh, God, open house was not mentioned in the article. Go spot.
People have a way of finding out, but if there's any promotional way of doing it, we can do it, but,
We got a full page ad and half a grade review. How about that?
yeah.
Whatever that is. I mean, I'm serious. I'm not, look at.
Well, it is, probably social media is by far the best coverage, I would guess, but we can do anything else that in the future that we need to do. Okay, excellent. Chief Archie, did you have any?
The only thing that I would add is today is Administrative Professionals Day. And so while they aren't here, I have to mention our fantastic administrative staff, Chris Bradley and Phil Ortiz.
Yes.
That even though the firefighters on the engines are kind of the face of the district, if you will. We have an awesome staff kind of behind the scenes, paying the bills, support the fire marshal's office and everything. So if you see them, please thank them. They do a great job for us. So
Absolutely.
that's all I got.
One of the things I always look at is telling me how things are going. Is the number of employees leaving the district. I remember when I first came on the board, it was before Cal File was here. And this was like a standing room only list. They'd hire people, they get training, work a few months here, and they go on. And see that we spend more time hiring and training than we do operating the fire department. So when I see now month after month, nobody's leaving the district. Something around here is going right, and I suspect it's leadership.
Very good, sir. Thank you. Cynthia, did you attend a conference? Have
No,
you-
so it's coming up this
Coming
next month.
All right, nobody's attended. I just mentioned that to remind us that if we attend a conference, we need to give a little brief report afterwards at the board meeting as well. Okay. so
This
keep
this
that.
next conference is the 15th and 16th.
Just one quick thing, I'm not gonna go through this in depth, that we had a couple of, we had a meeting with the PAS people, a month ago to the, finance committee, and it covered, the PAS and all that thing. And I've heard a couple of comments that usually just somehow or other it's a little confusing, and PAS is a little confusing that we've done it. Do it, but it's a separate fund that we cannot, just to make sure that we all agree, it is a separate fund that we can only use to pay for the health care for our previous employees. We can't change it. The only thing that we have to do with it is we can select the asset allocation in the fund. But in terms of their managing it and what they do with it and all that type of that is out of our control now. It's a 115 trust that is managing and obviously done very well by PAS. But as far as us making any financial decisions, that's done. In the past. Anything else?
Is there any reason there's no distribution on this particular report?
I don't know. I didn't notice.
Yeah.
I couldn't answer your question.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Without objection, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.